Hi friends, my name is Maria Montessori and I was born in the year 1870 on August 31st in Italy in a little town named Chiaraville. I am the only daughter of Alessandro Montessori and Rino Cibani. My father was an Italian soldier and later on in life became an accountant in a salt and tobacco factory in Italy. My mother was a well-educated woman and had a passion for reading. My parents did a lot of great things for me, such as moving to Rome so I could go to a good school and receive an education. But the only thing that they did not want me to do was become a doctor, which was my dream. But instead, they wanted me to become an educator, just like every other woman in Rome. In the year 1898, on March 10th, I had my only son, Mario Montessori Sr. My son accomplished great things during his life. He was a great help in assisting me in all my difficulties in the field of education. After I passed away, he carried on the propagation of the Montessori movement. I am very proud of my son and all the things he accomplished in his life by carrying on the Montessori legacy. I started my studies in the year 1886 at the Institution of Leonardo da Vinci and graduated in the year 1890 with an engineering degree. After I got my degree, I enrolled myself at the University of Rome to study physics, mathematics, and natural science, and then received my diploma 2 years later. Once I received my degree in these subject areas, it allowed me to pursue my dream to become a doctor. So I went back to the University of Rome. On July 10th, 1896, I became one of the first female doctors in Italy. After receiving my diploma, I went to several international Congress meetings and represented my country. I even gave speeches at some of them about the women's rights. Later on, I went and returned back to Rome, where I worked as a surgical assistant at the Santino Spirito Hospital, where I mainly worked with poor families and their children. In the year 1897, I volunteered to join a research program at the psychiatric clinic at the University of Rome. I got to observe and treat children who had an intellectual disability. Working at this clinic and becoming familiar with the works of other famous people who did studies on children who had an intellectual disability, such as Jean Itard and Edouard Seguin. I was able to see all the studies they did for children who were diagnosed with intellectual disability. In the year 1900, I became a co-director at the institution called Ortho-Phoenix School. This job was a job that changed my occupation forever, from being a doctor to an educator. This school took in plenty of children with a wide spectrum of disorders. The school allowed me to practice my theories and hypotheses. So I was teaching them by day and then writing all my notes by night. I used what information I gathered from Itard and Seguin in order to prove my theories and experiment with my students. In 1901, I left the school to immerse myself in my own studies of educational philosophy and anthropology. 3 years later, I decided to take a job as a lecturer at the pedagogic school at the University of Rome, where I resided for 4 years until 1908. After this experience, I jumped on the opportunity to create a children's house called Casa di Bambini. This translated means children's house, and it opened on January 6, 1907. Here, I provided plenty of activities for the children, and I made sure to keep the activities that only engaged the students. I realized here that the children who were put into an open environment of activities produce learning will teach themselves naturally through the activities they choose. With time, the children were showing rapid and extreme progress. By the later months in the year 1908, there were 5 different locations, just like the original, using my methods of education. There were 4 in Rome and 1 in Milan. The news spread about my approach to education, and people worldwide came around to see the results. A year later, in Switzerland, they started to transition their kindergarten students into a Casa di Bambini school, and the news spread nationally. Before anyone knew it, there were Montessori schools located everywhere around the world. As Montessori schools were built around the world with my method being used, I began to write. I published my first book called The Montessori Method, and within 3 years it was translated into 10 different languages and sold all over the world. As the years went on, I continued on my mission with my son to spread the Montessori method across the globe. I got to travel around the world, giving lectures, trainings, and attending international Congress meetings that were held in different locations worldwide. I spent the next 30 years watching my family grow, traveling the world, writing more books, and watching my approach to education decline in interest due to fascism within Europe and after World War II, and traveling to places like India, where I improved and enriched my philosophy and approach to education. In the year 1949, I received 3 Nobel Peace Prize nominations. I then passed away on May 6 in the year 1952 due to a cerebral hemorrhage in the Netherlands. I left my family to carry on my legacy and spread my method along after I passed. So don't forget, friends, the Montessori method is a method of education that is based on self-directed activity, hands-on learning, and collaborative play. In the Montessori classrooms, children make creative choices in their learning, while the classroom and the highly trained teachers offer an age-appropriate activities to guide the process. One last thing that I want to leave you guys with is that the greatest sign of success for a teacher is to be able to say that the children are now working as if I do not exist. Thank you, guys.